It is no secret that the diet industry thrives on quick fixes, and that's really been a problem. They want a return customer and they want to lure people in. This is something I've seen over the years. And their goal isn't to set you up for success for life where you don't have to keep coming back. And oftentimes it leaves clients in a worse position. So, in other words, they might lose muscle, they might gain more weight or body fat when they do have that rebound effect of gaining the weight back. And like I said, they wind up in a worse position than before. Today, I have with me a guest who is anti diet. Joe Hoye is the owner and head coach of Hoye Fit, an online health and wellness business. Joe specializes in helping midlife women with weight loss and without using traditional dieting techniques. Joe delivers realistic, sustainable, and most of all, enjoyable health and weight loss solutions to ladies 40 plus that are wanting to feel great and fit back into their favorite clothes after years of unsuccessful crash or yo yo dieting. Built from a place close to his heart, Hoye Fit was created after Joe's own personal health journey of struggling from being too skinny to overweight to now confident, happy, and healthy in his own skin, which is what we all want. He prides himself on the fact that Hoye Fit doesn't provide the quick fix, but they are the fix. Welcome to the show, Joe.
I love it. That was a hell of an intro. Thank you, Carol.
You're very welcome. I love the anti diet approach, and I definitely want to dive into that because it means different things to different coaches, different people. But first of all, what brought you into this space? You talked about having your own journey. You went from the skinny to the weighing too much. What happened there?
Yeah, absolutely. And I laughed when you said that because probably 60 seconds before I jumped on this with you, I was in this little interview phase with someone else that wants me on their podcast. And she was asking, Joe, what do you know about women in midlife and beyond? I can see that you're a male. I can see that you're roughly 30 years old. So tell me about that. Like, it's this question I get all the time. And so it's a story I love to tell. Kind of a three-part story. Number one, growing up, my mom was my biggest role model. Only child until I was about 5 years old. And then I had two stepbrothers that came into my life. But even with that, I would see them on some days, and then other days they'd be at their other parents. And I remember when I was 13 years old, I was super skinny, always getting picked on for being too small, too slow, too unathletic, and I wanted to get bigger. And I didn't know how to do it, but I had finished my homework. I finished doing all those things 13-year-old boys do, playing video games, playing outside, and the day was winding down. I said, Mom, I'm kind of bored. Anything you think I could do? She's like, Not really, bud. You can stay home and figure it out, or I'm going to the gym and you can come with me. So, of course, I went to the gym. I fell in love with it, and I haven't looked back since. Now, throughout my entire high school career, I stayed really skinny. I got picked on the entire time, and I hated it. I always wanted to get bigger. Going into college, I pursued a career in surgery. I'm not a doctor, I was a surgical technologist. So, I'll get into that in a moment. That's part three of the story. But in college, just like many others, I discovered this thing called alcohol. And I eventually ended up gaining weight. It just wasn't the weight that I wanted. I blew right past where I thought that I wanted to be on the scale, and I went up to about 220 pounds. So that's pretty overweight for me. And I had a new problem. I still wasn't happy with my body. I was still getting picked on, except now I was just overweight and I didn't know how to lose it. So I started trying all of the diets that probably everybody listening has tried: keto, ideal protein, um, high carb, low carb, high fat, low fat, you name it. I tried it all. None of it worked. And so eventually, while pursuing this career in surgery, I was taking nutrition courses, anatomy courses, physiology courses. I learned what my body actually needed, and I created something that worked for me. Now, growing up in a small town, everybody knew Joe when I was really skinny. They knew Joe when I was fat, and now they knew Joe when I looked good. Those balloons always come up. I don't know how this happened.
I don't either.
Everybody watched the audio. And so they knew me when I was all three: skinny, overweight, and now athletic looking, had muscle, confident in myself. And people started asking, Joe, can you teach me how to do this? And I've always been kind of business oriented. So enough people asked, and I said, I think I might have something here. I think that number one, I can help people, and number two, I can make money doing it. So on the side, while working in surgery, I was training people online and I was running these group challenges. Transparently, I thought that I wanted to help people that looked like me, men in their 20s, gain muscle, lose fat, be confident. And so that's what I did. I started advertising for these group challenges. The first one rolled around. I jumped on my Zoom call, excited to help all these young men gain muscle and lose fat. And when I opened up the Zoom call, the only male face I saw was me. Everyone else looking back at me, Carol, looked just like you. Um, Women in midlife or beyond that are wanting to lose weight. And it caught me by surprise. For some reason, my messaging, my marketing, the way I spoke really resonated with these women. And so I've just rolled with it. By the end of that call, I was having a blast. By the end of that challenge, I changed 50 lives and they all lost weight. So I haven't looked back since. That was 6 years ago. The third part of my story, like I said, I was pursuing a career in surgery. My job was basically anything the doctor couldn't do with his own two hands, I would do with mine. And in that job, there was myself and 6 women on the team. Of those 7 people, they decided to stick the one man, again, that's me, inside the OB and GYN based rooms. Don't ask me why, but they did it. And so for the next 3 to 4 years, I forget how long, honestly, I was spending 40 hours a week plus on-call surgeries, on-call emergency surgery hours, working on the female body and female reproductive system next to doctors that spent their entire life learning how that body functions. And so that's kind of the conclusion to my story is I want to give back to my mom and I want to pour into households where I can affect ladies and their children and their house. I resonate and speak well to these women and I understand them really, really well.
I love that. We were talking off camera a little bit about how each of us has something different that we bring to the space, and we will resonate with some people and not with others. I know when I first began coaching, it was because I had had my own transformation as well. I did my first bodybuilding show, and I thought that's who I'm going to train. I'm going to train bodybuilders and I'm going to be training people for shows. Well, I did a little bit of that, but that's not who I was attracting. I was attracting women that saw what I did at my age and went, how'd you do that? I don't want to compete, but what can I glean from you? What can I take away to have my own transformation in my own life? So it's interesting how we start on one path and then we will naturally be pulled toward another path or another group of people.
Exactly. Yeah. And to be honest with you, I fought back against it in the beginning. I was like, yeah, I'm having fun. Yeah, I'm helping these people, but I think I want to work with people more like me. And it never worked. And so I stopped fighting it. I started going with the flow. And 6 years later, we have this massive team and we only help women 45 plus every single day of my life. And I freaking love it.
Are your clients okay? So they're mostly in their 40s, 50s. Do you get clients who are older?
Yeah. So it's anywhere between, I would say, 40 to 70. And it's a pretty balanced range.
It's a good demographic. I know. It's funny. My clients have kind of aged with me. I'm in my 60s now. So I attract more and more ladies that are 60 plus, which is very cool because, I remember growing up and women were just so focused on dieting and crash dieting and the number on the scale. And we all wanted to be as skinny as we can conceivably be. We didn't pick up a weight. And so it's wonderful to see older women coming in, discovering strength training, for example, and that there's another way to getting the body that you want, and it's not all about the scale.
Not just another way, but a much better way.
Yes, yes. So before I ask you a little bit about the anti-diet approach and how you work with women, so you left the world of surgery behind at a certain point?
Yeah. So when I was, gosh, 25, I would say. I'm 30 now. I quit surgery. Um, it was right around it was right around when COVID was first happening. My group challenges really took off. I was creating a massive amount of impact and I was loving it. So I took the scary leap to end surgery and I haven't looked back since.
Do you find that that background has helped you with what you do now?
in more ways than one. Like I said, I understand the female body really well. I also have an understanding of the processes that it undergoes. But working in surgery, I also had to be highly organized. And that has just been a skill that continues to pay off everywhere in life.
Yes, yes, I would agree. My daughter did some work in the OR and said the same thing. And she came away with a whole new skill set just from that time in the OR. So now with your approach, and you're definitely not about diets, can you explain a little bit more about what that means and how you work with ladies?
Absolutely. Yeah. So, in short, diets don't work. I know that there's probably one listener that knows one person that a diet has worked for. I get it. Maybe it works for some people. But for every one person that you know a diet has worked for, there's probably 25 others that it hasn't. Okay. And the thing that I want to really highlight is that even if somebody reached that desired number on the scale, it doesn't always mean they did it in a healthy way. And it doesn't always mean that the desired number on the scale equals their desired body, right? Because we have to think that losing weight isn't the goal, right? Losing fat is the goal. Keeping muscle is the goal. Keeping bone density as women age is the goal. And really, that is not something that can be done through a massive calorie deficit and tons of cardio.
Very true, because I just had this conversation with a client this morning saying you've got to fuel your body. You have these goals to build these shoulders, build these glutes, build these legs. That's not going to happen in a serious caloric deficit. We need to move you into more calories. She'd lost the weight. Now we're entering the next phase of reversing her back the other way. And that's something I wanted to speak into a little bit. I feel like people go on the diet and there's no exit plan. There's no plan for what to do once they've lost the weight.
I love talking to coaches that really see the big picture. So just thank you for fighting a good fight, really. But yes, I agree completely. And so inside of our what I call our Fit for Life coaching program, we do one-on-one coaching. We have a weight loss phase, but it's just a phase. It's not the entire program, right? It's the second phase. We have to do what we call diet detox before that. But what I want to talk about right now is what I call the keep it phase, and that is teaching people how to live a normal life inside the body that they just built with us, without having to diet, without having to track their calories forever, without having to use a food scale every place they go. And ultimately, I think that weight loss isn't the main problem, because for most of the ladies listening, they've done a diet and they've lost weight, but they gained it back. In the weight maintenance is usually the issue. And so we put a really big emphasis on doing that and doing it in a normal way.
I love that, because so many come out ill prepared for, okay, they're so focused on that goal, that number, that elusive number on the scale that they're chasing, not ever considering what is that number made up of. How much is muscle, how much is body fat. That body composition is so important. So I love that, preparing them for the real world. I know, doing so many bodybuilding shows, I realized I had a huge problem coming off of those with the
Mm.
cravings. And at the time, I didn't understand. Now I realize, all right, my hunger hormones, ghrelin, leptin, completely out of balance, because my body was like, your body fat's too low, eat. It was screaming at me. But a lot of people, they don't know that. And so then they come out with that guilt and shame. Like, okay, I lost the weight. Now I'm gaining it back. What's wrong with me? I'm weak. Do you see that too?
Yeah, so we don't go that route as far as getting people competition ready. So I probably
Right.
see it to a less extreme extent than you do. But we do see it, right? Because naturally, when we take a lady from their fat loss phase into the keep it phase, all calories increase, which means that some of those calories are carbs, which means that water retention is going to happen, which means that scale gain is going to happen. And so, if we don't properly address the mindset and setting expectations, we can see people respond negatively when the scale goes up by 1 pound or 2 pounds, you know?
Oh yeah. And that little fluctuation is so normal. I mean, that could be just Just
every day.
anything. Yeah, inflammation, sodium retention, so many different things. I mean, I'll fluctuate 3 pounds at times up and down, this the same the same 3 pounds. But yeah, it gets in our head as women. I know I've had that challenge as well. I want to dive into what you meant by, you talked about a phase called the diet detox, and that's where you start people. Now, right away when we hear detox, we think of juicing and
Yeah.
all of the things.
Yeah, so it's quite the opposite. And I chose those words carefully because they're two really big buzzwords these days. But if we look at it, a diet detox is actually detoxifying somebody from the damage that past diets have done, right? So, I mean, you come from the competitive physique world, you'll understand this really well. But what we walk our clients through is ultimately reverse diet. And the reason that is because for the ladies we work with, they've been doing keto, Optavia, Atkins, Ideal Protein, you name it, any program that puts you on 1,000 calories or 1,200 calories, not just for 3 months or 6 months, but for years. And so their body has become so accustomed to eating such small amounts of food that before we can make them lose weight, we need to make their body better at burning calories. And so we'll slowly titrate up calorie numbers weekly or biweekly until we reach what is a true maintenance. And ladies are really astounded when they notice or realize they can eat 2,000 calories. They can eat 2,400 calories a day and not gain weight. Some of them can even lose weight at that number. And that's when life changes because then you get to go out and enjoy yourself and not stress every second of every day. And at the end of the week, when you jump on the scale after enjoying dinner with your husband or ice cream with the kids, you might have even lost a pound because now your body's working the way it should.
So essentially, you're reversing them out of what we called in the competitive world reverse dieting. And personally, I found that the most challenging phase. When you're in
Oh,
a
yeah.
fat loss phase and you're going for the goal and you're seeing the immediate gratification of the body fat coming down, very different thing than taking the bus back the other other direction. It's not as sexy or fun.
Not as sexy or fun. All of the ladies that join our program, or 90%, they join because they want to lose weight. And so when they commit or invest in themselves and they don't lose weight in week one, it's tough. But just because someone doesn't lose weight doesn't mean they're not making progress, right? Because a lot of times weight loss is the goal, but they also forget that they wake up as tired as they go to bed. They can't focus at work. They're in a crappy mood. They're hungry and have cravings all day long, and they can't sleep through the night. And so the good thing with the diet detox phase is that even though the scale might stay the same as you get to eat and enjoy way more food, those biomarkers that I just mentioned all improve, right? So cravings
Mm.
are gone, energy is up, focus is there, relationships improve, sleep is better, and you're waking up energized and ready to take on the day.
Yeah, and just mentally, because I think being at a caloric deficit for so long is mentally exhausting. And I know from my own personal experience, by the end, you're just done. You're exhausted physically, mentally, psychologically, every which way. You just like, I just want to be a normal person again.
Yeah, I've never cut for a competition like you, but I mean, I've done weight cuts just to lean out a bit and shoot, just from that, even I'm like, oh, I'm ready for some pizza and some fun, you know?
Yeah, it can definitely poke a hole in the fun part of it. Now, what do you do when you have, and I know women would do this, they come in and they resist. They're not wanting to up those calories. It's freaking them out. Maybe the scale goes the opposite direction. How do you handle that?
So there's a couple ways. It depends on where we're at. If somebody's brand new and they're pushing back, I level with them, right? I explain to them, look, I get it. Everything you've done for the past 5, 10, or 15 years has told you to eat less. And now you have someone that looks nothing like you telling you to eat more. It's scary. There's nothing that I'm going to say or do that's going to make you believe me. I just need you to trust me for 7 days. And so then we increase their calories. They go for 7 days. They get on the scale stays the same, and their life improves. And as they see the scale stay the same, they eat more food and have more fun, and quality of life improves. That's when that buy in starts to really happen. if somebody does see the scale go the wrong way for a small amount of time, what I'll usually do is kind of future cast what life could look like. And I'll ask them, would gaining 5 pounds for a short amount of time in order to lose 50 pounds for the rest of your life be worth it? And I've never had somebody tell me no.
Mm. No, that's such a good way to reframe the whole thing and shift them into a different perspective. Now, I want to switch gears a little bit because this was kind of going through my mind as I was preparing for this podcast. There is such a debate, and I see it on social media. Well, there's a lot of debates. First of all, in the nutrition world, period, people are absolutely dogmatic about their approach, the one thing, almost to the point of like a religion, just very dogmatic about it. But I see this debate right now of calories in, is it calories? Is it hormones? Is it quality of food? And some people saying, oh no, it's only about calories. And some people saying, oh no, it's only about hormones. What is your take on all this?
I don't think it's only about anything for anyone, right? I think every single person is different. And so if you realize during my story, I shared that I used to do group challenges and now we do one-on-one coaching. And the reason that is because as I grew as a coach, I realized that there's no one size fits all approach. If it was truly just one thing for everyone, I would do that for the masses, but I can't, you know? So what I'm saying here is everyone's different. Everyone needs their own approach. Calories do matter, hormones do matter, stress matters, hydration matters, exercise matters, it all matters. Basically, lifestyle matters.
Agreed. There's not one thing, and bioindividuality rules because what works with one individual, and I learned this very quickly, may not work with another. And then I would have those difficult, I use difficult for lack of a better word, challenging, more challenging cases of just the general things that you would do just wouldn't work. And you have to dig a little bit deeper. Is this person sleeping? And then you find out, oh, they're sleeping 3 hours a night and having hot flashes. Well, they're not going to be able to achieve that body composition under those circumstances, or they're under extremely high levels of stress.
Right, exactly. And so we've seen this in such extreme cases where some people's current lifestyles won't even allow them to lose weight. Like I have nurses that are working overnight shifts and then day shifts and then taking care of their kids and running a daycare. It's like, hey, this isn't going to work and I'm sorry. Like I can tell you to do everything right, but at the end of the day, if you get 4 hours of sleep one day, no sleep the next day, and then you change everything around 24 hours later, like your body has no clue what's going on. And you need to work with your body on this.
Yes, I have found the nurses and people in the healthcare profession, those are the most challenging cases
Mm-hmm.
because, and especially if those shifts are changing and they're going against their circadian rhythms, and it's like nothing's going to work. Nothing, there is no consistency with sleep, no consistency with water. Stress sometimes is through the roof. And yeah, it makes losing weight extremely difficult, if not impossible.
Yeah, exactly. And that's speaking from experience. I worked in Hawaii for a short time doing overnight shift, and my body was a wreck during that just because I was doing 3 12-hour shifts overnight. And then on my 4 days off, I would go back to sleeping at night and just wasn't happy. I had no clue what was going on.
Mm, yes. Now, when you're working with an individual, are you, let's try to word this in the correct way. There's so many different approaches to take. And I know I pull a lot of things out of my toolbox. So sometimes a little bit of intermittent fasting might work for one
Mm.
person, be totally detrimental for another woman, depending on her stress levels, her sleep, energy, etc. Sometimes a short-term version of keto can be helpful, but you wouldn't want to stay there forever. Sometimes people need more carbs. Do you find that you're kind of, I call it toggling the switch and doing different things?
I love this. Just a shout out to you. You have got to be a great coach because like we just talked about, you understand that there is no one size fits all. Like you have to find what works for every single person. And the answer is yes. I'm not a big fan of keto. I'm not a big fan of intermittent fasting. I'm not a big fan of paleo. I'm a big fan of what works for someone is what you should do. And we always find exactly what that is. At this point, we have a registered dietitian on the team, we have an intuitive eating coach, we have an epigenetic coach. And they all come from different walks of life with different experiences. We meet weekly to share those experiences, and we're always giving our clients what they need in order to succeed. And so, like you just said, we have some ladies that they're not hungry until 12 o'clock in the afternoon. I'm not going to make them eat at 8 in the morning if it's going to form a bad relationship with food long term. Like, no, hit your calorie goals and your nutrition goals within that shorter window, and let's get you to where you want to be. I have some people that thrive off of higher fat and lower carb. Let's do that. Yeah, I agree completely.
Yeah, the genetics is a player in this. You kind of touched on the epigenetics, which is for the listener, you have your genes, you have the expression of those, but not every gene has to express. Environment is that other part of the picture that can trigger an expression of a gene. So, for instance, somebody might be genetically prone to Alzheimer's, but they don't necessarily get Alzheimer's or get cancer. Environment and our lifestyle choices can really play into this. And I love the idea of an epigenetic coach. I actually have not heard that terminology. Can you explain what this person does and how they work with people?
Yeah, so the reason we brought her on for our team specifically is because I wanted someone that could order and read blood panels for hormones
Mm.
and gut health. So that's her biggest strength in our team is in the past we've had some clients where, to be honest with you, they did everything right. They were hitting everything we wanted them to hit and we couldn't figure it out. And it killed me because I want people to do well. So we hired Colleen, and of those three ladies that were still with us, we've turned every single one around because we got this deeper picture as to what their body's going through, what hormones are high, what hormones are low, and how we need to balance them. And it's just been great.
That's so helpful. I know I recently had someone that the pieces just weren't fitting together. And the blood work, not that I'm a doctor or read blood work, but when she shared it with me, I could see, there are the levels on the page and insulin resistant. And I'm like, okay, things aren't going to happen if you're insulin resistant.
Yeah, exactly. And it's funny you say that because one of our ladies actually is. And so we changed not the amount of food she was eating, but how often she was eating. We spaced it out a little bit more. We ended snacking, and man, that has made a world of difference.
Yes, you hit on it there. Some people, the snacking has to go, and kind of back to the intermittent fasting, they can benefit from that to stabilize that blood glucose. Other people, that's just going to crash their energy levels because I've seen the other side where somebody is chronically fatigued and just burned out, and putting them on a long intermittent fasting regimen of some sort would be, really ill advised.
Yep, exactly. I couldn't agree more. So that goes straight back to doing what that person needs specifically.
Yes, yes. Now you have an intuitive eating coach. That's another hot topic button because I feel like that word is thrown around and it's thrown around in the wrong way. Like, oh, I feel like having the donut 5 times a day, so I'll have the. It's like, no,
My,
that's not intuitive.
my intuition is telling me I want a fifth donut today. No, that's not how it works. I like that.
So
No, so
could you,
yeah, the reason I brought Carissa on is for that third phase, the keep it phase. Um, I've been very transparent about my own journey and how I tracked calories and how I weighed food, and I'm also transparent about how I haven't tracked a damn thing in God 4 years, and people don't understand how I can do it. And I told them it's because I built the habits, the knowledge, and the tools to know what I'm putting in my mouth, know how my body feels when it's full and when it's hungry, and I can go off of that. And while I was pretty good at it, while Kate, our head coach, was pretty good at it, I wanted someone that was amazing at it. And so we brought on Carissa. Like I said, she's our intuitive eating coach. And she has really helped to dial in the last phase of our program. That way, people can truly graduate and move on and not need us or another program again.
I love that and love how you described it. I know that's not my superpower either, the intuitive eating. I do run a program with a clinical psychologist, and that has been so helpful because she has this background in all of the emotional eating, body image, because you kind of touched on that earlier with your own story. You started down the path because of body image, and then it took you way the other way. So, that's another aspect that's so, and I think men and women struggle with this.
Absolutely. Every single person, regardless of who they might be, can struggle with it for sure. Um, we see it a lot with the women we work with. And the thing is, we like to have our clients learn to love themselves in the body they're in now, because hating yourself into a body that you love is not going to happen, right? Every single person we work with is an amazing person. I love talking to all of them and spending time with all of them. Doesn't matter if they're at their goal weight or they're 100 pounds away from it. It doesn't matter. They're good people. And so we like to address the mindset and teach people to love themselves as well, because it just makes the process way easier, way more enjoyable. Um, but yeah, I think body image is something that's really big, not talked about too much, and downplayed. Right? I know I've made posts in the past of like, gosh, I forget what it was, but it was something talking about how important body image is, and people like poo pooed me because they said health is way more important. And yeah, health is great, but feeling good about yourself is also great. You know?
Yes, it leads to other things. And I try to explain this myself because I experienced it.
Mhm.
I did a bodybuilding show, not because I really wanted to do a show, but I wanted that transformation. I wanted what at that time it was like what I saw in magazines, and social media was just getting started. So I was seeing some of it there. And it's like, I want that, and I don't know how to get that. So I'm hiring a coach, I'm doing a show. What I didn't expect to happen, I did it all for the reason of looking great. I didn't expect the confidence and for it to completely change every aspect of my life from that one show.
That's amazing. Good
And
for
it's
you.
because it shifted my body image and it shifted my confidence in doing difficult things. It proved to me, yeah, you can do something scary, you can do something hard, you can do something difficult. Now, what else can you do? And it just transferred into other areas of my life.
I love that, and I see that so much as well. Like, hitting PRs in the gym is hard. Reaching a certain body composition is hard. And if you can do those hard things, what other hard things can you do?
Yes, and
Right?
it's relative too. It's for one person it won't be a show. It'll be, wow, I did my first really long hike, or,
Mhm.
whatever the case is, whatever they've wanted to do, it can manifest in so many different ways. But we do kind of start with that aesthetic. We want to look good. We want to feel good in our clothes. Now, I will say, being in my 60s now, it shifted, and the longevity part of it really kicked in for me.
I love it. Well, I don't think you have to worry about the aesthetic part anymore. Like I was gonna bring this up earlier, but you are in amazing shape.
Thank you.
You're good to go there. Let's just look at the longevity.
Thank you. But yeah, it did. It shifted. It started out as, yeah, I want to be the 50-year-old that rocks the bikini, to now, hey, I want to be able to one day, lift up my grandkids, keep putting my suitcase in the overhead bin, take the stairs, all of the things you don't think about when you're a little bit younger. Now, I wanted to touch on the exercise piece with this because we're often given the advice of eat less, exercise more, when in reality, yes, exercise is important, but it's the right type and the right amount. What is your approach and perspective on this?
The right type and the right amount. Exactly. I see that 99% of the people that we work with are afraid of strength training because they think they will look like me. It's not going to happen. Um, they don't want to get too bulky. In other words, what I'm saying, and they think that cardio is the best way to lose fat. But I can promise you that cardio is the best way to lose weight, and that weight is muscle, not fat, right? And by strength training, especially woman 45 or older that's losing bone density and muscle mass yearly, you're going to reverse those two things. And you're going to be able to lift your grandchildren above your head, just like Carol just said. Um, Also, doing more is not always the answer. One thing to keep in mind is that as we strength train, we actually deteriorate our body. We break it down a little bit. We create these micro tears. And the thing that builds it stronger is not going to the gym, it's recovering from the gym, right? And so if you're exercising more than you're resting, you're breaking your body down more than you're building it up. And so what I'm getting at here is for most of the ladies we work with, we recommend 3 to 4 days of strength training, resistance training, and then recover. You can go on walks, you can go on hikes, don't do any crazy cardio, let your body build back up. And we found that's the sweet spot. What about you?
The same.
Yeah.
Personally, what I do is about 5 days per week strength training because I break it down into muscle groups, and some
Okay.
are more challenging than others. Like if I'm doing a shoulder day, it's not taxing like a leg day. And then I do a lot of walking. I don't do, I know there's a place for HIIT, but I don't really do it anymore. I have back issues and I'm like, not worth it. And I don't need it. You know, my body fat percentage is where I want it to be. And then with my clients, it's anywhere from 2 to 4 days typically. It depends on their schedule. Sometimes 2 is where we start, and then they'll come to me and say, you know what, I think I'd like to do 3, or I think I want to move from home workouts to gym workouts, and we do a progression from there.
That's usually how we go. We'll start at home, we'll start with body weight, we'll add in some bands. Once bands are too easy, we'll get them in the gym, and then we'll start increasing days of the week. Yeah,
Yes,
same.
yes. Yes, and bands are great. They get a bad rap like, oh, bands are just for, if you're working with a physical therapist. And I'm like, oh no, you can get a full-on great workout with bands, and it can be quite challenging.
Bands will burn you up for sure.
They will. They're harder. They're deceivingly hard.
Yeah.
So much so. Now, you don't do the group programs anymore, and I can really, I still do run a few, but I am more a fan of the long-term one-on-one coaching. And in fact, I keep increasing the time window with clients. Like it was, 10, then 12, and now I'm at 16 weeks with individuals. How long do you like to run those one-on-one programs with your clients?
Yeah, so we have no end date. Um, Really, I like people to commit to 6 months because if I'm being honest, to make it through the diet detox, learn how to lose weight, and then learn how to keep it off, you can't do it in a month or two. Like you said at the beginning for me, we are not the quick fix, right? But I'm confident that for people that commit to us, we are going to be the fix, meaning they don't need to lose weight again. We have people that will stay for up to 2 years, right? They want to lose 100 pounds and they want to do it the right way and build muscle at the same time and reverse chronic disease. And while 2 years to somebody listening might sound like forever, I promise you it took 30 to create that. And so if we compare those two things, pretty damn fast, you know?
It is. You're right. It takes time. I know a lot of my ladies move from the program to more of a maintenance program where, okay, now we're going to take everything you've learned, all the new lifestyle habits, let's put it into action. And I'll have women stay. I have some like 3 years or more that they just keep setting new goals. They keep
Yeah.
hitting new highs with their goals, and we keep going.
It's not something that ends, right? Health doesn't end. Health is an infinite game that you want to play for as long as possible. And the only way to do that is to continue setting new goals and getting better, right?
Yes, and what you said there is just beautiful. That it's not an end. And we're back to that diet mentality, which the whole idea of this diet mentality is there's a beginning, a middle, and an end. And there is no, this is it's a constant work in progress. Your health, um, your fitness level, that is something that should be lifelong. And I love when I go to the gym and I see little old men or little old ladies that are in their 80s in there doing the weights. I love it.
the gym I go to specifically, it's owned by a, gosh, it's got to be close to 70 now. Looking at her, you wouldn't be able to tell, but really, really in shape older woman. And she advocates for that demographic. And so at the time that I go is when she's running her strength training classes for women. And there's so many women, there's 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s that are doing so good. And it's just such a nice thing to see.
It really is. It's encouraging. Because I know even just 10 years ago, when I would go in, you didn't see that. If you saw those older women, they were on the treadmill, they were on the recumbent bike, nothing wrong with that, but they didn't go near the weights. And of course, they always have that separate, there's your cardio, here's your weights, and you would have your cardio people and your weight people. So it is beautiful to see women bridging those gaps and older women bridging those gaps as well. Now, I want to be respectful of your time, Joe, and a couple of questions for you as we start to wrap up. Was there anything that I didn't touch on that you want the listeners to know? And how can they get a hold of you, reach you, and work with you?
Yeah, no, I think this was an amazing conversation. There's nothing that I'd like to add in there. We covered it all. I think people know that this is not a one size fits all approach. One thing is not going to solve it for anyone. We got to find what works, and I'm glad that you and I are on the same page there. Everybody can find me. You can just search my name on Facebook or Instagram. It's Joe Hoye, Hoye, or Hoye Fit. And then if you're okay with it, Carol, I would like to give your audience, one person in your audience, not the entire audience, something special just for listening till the end, for being a follower of you. And I just like to give back if that's okay.
Absolutely, I would love that.
Sure. So what we prepared is a giveaway. It is 6 months of free coaching with us. Like I said, 6 months is the minimum. I like people to really commit to that because you can see a massive change and there's no strings attached. We're not going to get you in there and sell you supplements or anything you don't need. We're just going to coach you. So I'll share a link with you after this, Carol, and anybody that clicks that link, I'll need four things: name, phone number, email, and why you deserve to win the 6 months of free coaching. Our team of coaches and me will go through that. We'll pick one lucky lady and we'll try to change your life in 6 months.
Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you, Joe. It's very generous. I encourage the listeners to take advantage of this offer. Click and apply and do check out Joe. We'll make sure all of the links are in the show notes. And thank you so much, Joe. I appreciate you being on. I really enjoyed our conversation.
Me too. It was nice to meet you and chat for a little bit.
Nice, nice to meet you too. And to our listeners, wherever you are in the world, we wish you every blessing. Bye for now.